Okay, the gentleman yields. The gentlewoman from Georgia, Ms. Williams, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all of our witnesses today for your testimony and being here. I appreciate my Republican colleagues for focusing on this hearing and exposing financial threats and potential solutions to fight off fraudsters in this space. But y'all, I do need to point out that we had an independent watchdog that helped to protect consumers and deliver dollars back to constituents, and it was the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. But my Republican colleagues decided in the Billionaire Bailout bill to reduce funding for the CFPB, leaving opportunities for fraudsters to flourish. And since Acting Director Vaught's takeover of the CFPB, ongoing cases to hold financial institutions accountable for deceptive practices have been dropped. Many of the rules that were either proposed or implemented by former Director Chopra have been dropped as well, all of which were aimed at helping consumers find relief. And the most baffling is mid-September, y'all, and we still have no clue when the acting director is going to testify in front of the full committee. Perhaps I missed the memo. But what we're focused on today is, or my focus today is on the consumer. The Billionaire Bailout budget opened the door for scammers, a poisoned CFPB, and pivoting from the previous administration's rulemakings that put consumers over schemers. And y'all, the schemers are real. I just heard this week a news report down in Columbus, Georgia, where the local sheriff's office, working with the FBI, was at point-of-sale transactions at Target, Walmart, gas stations, pulling the spiffers from the machines because people's cards were being cloned and purchases being made all over the country. And then, of course, we're all too familiar, like my colleague from Louisiana stated, those text messages where even my 10-year-old son, Carter, is like, "Mommy, I don't drive a car. What do they mean they're gonna take my driver's license if I don't pay?" And so this is rampant across the board. But because of these reductions at the CFPB and all of the changes, I'm going to use this time to remind the American people how this administration is prioritizing scammers and fraudsters and hurting our constituents. Ms. Carla Sanchez Adams. Last December, the CFPB announced at the time that they were distributing $1.8 billion, with the B, billion dollars to 4.3 million consumers, including $103 million delivered to Georgia for consumers that were harmed by a group of predatory credit repair companies. That's real money. This is the largest ever distribution from the Bureau's Victim Relief Fund in history, and I applaud the Bureau for acting against these scams. But I think we know that there are still widespread financial scams like this that are still ripping off American consumers. Ms. Sanchez Adams, have you heard of this type of financial scheme? And is this the type of scam impacting customers that you work with?
Yeah, so, well, that was loud. Credit repair organizations, quote unquote, do charge consumers to help them fix their credit, and often they actually charge and collect that money before actually doing anything to help address some of the credit issues, or they make false promises that they can do something that they can't actually do. It is indeed a big problem, and I agree with that. I also just want to take this moment to respond to something that we said, that like fraud and scams is a front-end issue and not a back-end issue. I take issue with that because fraud encompasses both scams and also unauthorized use. And I hear so many cases where consumers are being impacted by unauthorized use, meaning someone takes over their account, someone initiates a transaction without them knowing about it, and yet their banks aren't making them whole, even though under the law they're supposed to. And not just banks, but P2P apps, which was what the Zelle lawsuit and the Cash App lawsuit were about. And that's supervision. That is the Bureau stepping in and saying, hey, you guys aren't complying with the law. You're supposed to be protecting consumers. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you for that. And building upon that and the conversation around the predatory practices around cleaning up your credit reports, do you think there's an opportunity for Congress to crack down on these scams and better protect consumers who are trying to get their financial lives back on track and just trying to live in this economy?
Yes.
So, Ms. Sanchez, I asked because as someone who spent years paying off my student loans, they are done, y'all. I owe 0 student loans. My husband, that's another story, Chairman Muser. We're still working on his. But I spent years paying off my student loans. I understand how important it is to understand debt and building credit worthiness, and it's still an important issue to fight off predatory actors in the credit repair space. I remember during my first term in Congress when we were in the majority, then Chairwoman Waters would hold hearings and testimony from the CEOs of the largest banks. We haven't had that in a while, so I hope that is coming. And I see that I am coming up on time. So, Mr. Chairman, I want to leave this last question on the record to get a written response. What do you say to consumers who the banking industry has failed and who have relied on the CFPB as the final course of action when all else has failed them? I would love to get that on the record in writing. Thank you. And I yield back.